show. I'm joined on the other line by my best friend. I got Jim D'Agostino on. Jim, welcome back to the show. And dude, before we get into this week's episode, we have to do a quick little update. So last week, if you tuned in, Jim was on again, and we talked about just kind of recapping where we're at in this month. February's winding down, and we got into a little bit about gear. We talked about what we're planning ahead, and a little bit, even though it's only been a week, things have changed a little bit. And we were also discussing about like the podcast, what are we going to do and all that type of stuff. And at the moment, as of right now, Jim and I had a really cool, fun discussion a couple days after the podcast. And basically the plan is to continue to do weekly episodes. And I'm going to go back to doing things, I guess, that we really enjoy and just want to just talk. And some of that discussion might be Jim and I just for the next couple of weeks. We might have Josh on, we might have Tim on, we might have Tom on, we might just have more of quote unquote close friends on rather than maybe certain guests. It's not because we're going to stop doing that. We're going to continue to do that. But just right now, it's that time period. You and I, we're going to kind of go over a lot of different pieces of gear these next couple episodes and kind of hone in on maybe like today, we're going to really talk about arrows because that's what we were really hammering when we would just talk individually outside the podcast this past week. So we're going to talk about arrows today, some other things, but we just wanted to give you a quick update where we're just going to, these next couple of weeks, have some friends on. And if there's a topic or something that comes up and there's a different guest that we want to have on and talk about, we're still going to do that. That's not changing. We're just letting you know kind of moving forward that they might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour about just whatever. We might talk about fitness. We might talk about nothing hunting related. So we just wanted to give you kind of that heads up. And I hope you enjoy the episodes and hopefully they turn out well. So if there's anything particular, again, like always, hit me up and we're going to continue to record because, any chance I get to talk to some good friends and everything like that, I'm going to do that. So long-winded introduction to this week's episode, but I thought it was important to go over that. So Jim, we're going to dive into some arrows and everything like that, but you were shooting your bow the other day, right?
Finally found a little hot pocket in this winter wonderland we've been having. I got outside, shot, 50, 60 arrows. Felt good. Only backed out to like 35, 40 yards. But that's plenty for right now just to kind of knock the cobwebs off.
Dude, I was watching the competitive archery coverage from Foley from this past weekend, and they threw up one. I don't know what day it was from. I don't know if it was from Friday. And they're PJ was on the range with them, and he was, I forget what the target was. I think it was a turkey. It was at 60 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, man, I'm not even reaching that with my 410, and it's freezing out, and I haven't even shot past like 20 yards, even if that. And
right.
I couldn't tell you how long. And these guys are going down there and dropping 12s on a turkey. It was really cool to see, man, just how some of these guys are and having their setup. And like you and I were just talking yesterday, I took the Exalt out just in the backyard and I was only shooting like 15 yards. And I was like, dang, just from like being outside and shooting that 15 yards compared to just being in my basement and shooting 4, 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, man, they're already out there dropping bombs and some really good scores. Shout out to Nate. Nate shot, I think, a 180 the first day, and then he ended up coming back and he ended up shooting, I think, 8 12s the second day. And he ended up finishing, I think, like 20th in that semi-pro open class. So he ended up having a really good second day. So good for him. That's his first, I believe, like big ASA, kind of event that he did. So I'm anxious to talk to him, to catch up with him and see how he felt, because I like you and I are saying, I know he was probably disappointed in that 180 first score just because how good of a shot he is, and he came back and shot really well. I forget what he was plus that second day. He was plus something above 200. So good for him.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially being another East Coaster where he's been battling this weather and hasn't been able to get out and really shoot much out there. I mean, that's awesome. He's a great shot. He works hard, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So before we dive into the arrow talk, Man, the reason why we were really talking arrows is just because from last week we were discussing like your new bow setup, and I think you kind of really put the seal of approval on that your artist, when you get that in, is going to be your strictly hunting bow, and you kind of elaborated to that. But I think since then you were like, maybe I would take it to TAC or something along those lines, but you're going to run your ethos for that TAC for 3D type shoot and really build that artist for that. So obviously we're going to have different arrows, and that's what kind of really triggered this whole arrow discussion. And we said, dude, let's save that for a podcast. But the reason why, though, was because Total Archery Challenge for Pennsylvania, it kicked off as far as registration this past week. And true to TAC colors, it was a total shit show again. And so I had to sign. I ended up being the one that signed us all up. It was it's going to be me, you, Josh, and Tim. And so the four of us were trying to obviously stick together, get a shot. We were getting an Airbnb, all that stuff. And we haven't signed up to participate in it in 2 years. So we took like a 2-year gap, and we've talked about it on the podcast before. Like the Montage Mountain shoot was like the last 2 years, the one that we really look forward to. Northeast PA, kind of like where we grew up hunting, just where we grew up in general. So it was kind of like, I felt really cool to have an experience there. And they did a really good job with it. And obviously I know things will be coming out, so I don't want to be the one to say anything, but it is moving. And so with that, we were like, man, all right, well, that's cool. That's fine. But we also wanted to have Josh experience Total Archery Challenge and do something like that. And just another reason to get together. So we decided to do it again this year. And with that, we were like, okay, we know how hectic it is just from years past, and we've gotten lucky. We've always wanted to shoot the knock-on course. We've done that for that first thing in the morning. So this year, I got everybody to send me all your information, and it was going live 11 a.m. Eastern time, so 9 o'clock Mountain time. And when you go on the website, dude, so what you had to do is you went on totalarcherychallenge.com or whatever it was. You click on the registration for Seven Springs, and then there was like a bar where you put your email address in, and right at 11 o'clock, thousands of individuals were doing the exact same thing, and you hit submit. Okay.
So you were logged on already at like 9 o'clock or 9?
Yeah, I was watching the clock tick. So basically there was like a timer, and it was like my email was already in the bar, and all I had to do is wait when it said 3, 2, 1, and then the button like basically went from being ghosted to like lighten up to hit submit. And once you would hit submit, basically what that does is it puts you in a queue. You get an email. Once you get that email, you click on the link that's provided. That brings you to actually register. So I kept hitting, I hit submit, and it was basically going through cycling, which I'm sure a lot of people had this experience just from reading some of the comments, and it timed out. And then it timed out again. And then it timed out again. And it's like, oh my gosh. And it kept doing that for the first like 11 minutes. Well, finally, I did one on my phone just because I didn't know if it was like the internet or anything along those lines. I did it on my phone. And when I hit it, it said, you're in the queue. Like it went through after like 11 or 12 minutes. And it said, you are going to get an email at 11:50. And I was like, dang. And it was like, what was it? Well, didn't it say I was like 562nd in line?
Yeah, way out.
Yeah, way out. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I was sending you guys screenshots in our group chat, keeping you all up to date. And then I ended up randomly checking my email. I'm one of those individuals where I hate having a ton of emails. Like that's just, I don't know, it's just like an OCD thing I have. And when I checked it, I was like, dang, I have 16 emails. So I'm deleting. At this point, it's like 11:22, right? Like 10 minutes gone by. I ended up having to do something while I was at work. And next thing you know it, one of the last newest emails said from Stride Events, you're ready to go. Don't waste time. Go register. And I was like, what the heck? It said 11:50. So if I didn't check my email,
sure. I would have bumped way out. You might not even got to be able to register.
We may not have even gotten a chance. So I ended up clicking on it. So which was like 10 minutes after. Luckily though, like I wasn't it didn't send, and I waited 10 minutes. Like, it happened like pretty right away when I was checking. So that was like lucky. And dude, but when I went on there, I knew we wanted to try to shoot super early and get the knock on course. There was one slot left, like meaning one person could go on. And I was like, dang, that sucks. So we're not shooting that one. And then I looked and there was only like a couple for Sitka. And by the time what ended up happening, and I was glad I didn't pick that one. So my personal second choice was Ultraview, just because it's a newer course from like 3 years ago. Watching a couple videos, it's just seemed very technical, not crazy terrain. And knowing us, like how we like to shoot, we like that technical stuff. And that still had the ability. There was over like, I don't know, 100 slots left. But this is what I found very interesting as I was doing the process. There was over 100 slots left, and you basically, what has changed since when you and I last booked, remember, like we would book our time, like we would have our tee time. Now you get in a time zone, like a 7:30 to 9. And then a couple of days go by, I guess the TAC crew then will send you an email like, hey, Jeremy, you and your crew are going to shoot at 8:00. And other people are going to get the 7:30. Some people are going to get 7:45 and so forth. So as I was putting in, though, individuals like myself, and then I was signing us up as a group, dude, it went from over 100. Then when I put like your information in, we were down to 80. And then when I put your information in to put Josh's in, we were down to like 70. Like, it kept dropping. So like, even if there was only, like I said, 50 spots for Sitka, I would have needed to have like our stuff in like super, super quick to maybe try to get that. So like it went, we got registered. So here's my plan of thought. And I don't know if I said this to you yesterday or not. With the Ultra View course being technical, we have the morning. With it not being the crazy terrain, I'm thinking this, as long as like we get early, which we're in that first time zone, we should be able to eat and then like go right back up on the mountain and shoot if we wanted to try.
We'll definitely capitalize on the time slot and try to get as much shooting in as we can, just to make it. I mean, we want to shoot as much as we can anyway, but for make it affordable.
Yeah.
But to back up to what you were saying about the whole registration process, I still can't believe, it was not last year, the year before, so 2 years ago, when we tried to, maybe we were trying to sign up for TAC again, and I was on the registration side of things, and it timed me out and locked the website out so bad that by the time it came back in, I couldn't even get it. Like, everything was just sold out. I remember just on this last one, I was reading through the comments on Instagram, on Total Archery Challenges on Instagram page, because they were keeping everybody up to speed, kind of like, hey, the website's back up or whatever, which is the right thing to do.
And yeah, it crashed. That was what's happening.
The comments were just blowing up, obviously, with, and we'll get to that. But like, some of the, I was reading that guys were in the same boat as you, where they were logged in 2 hours before, waiting to hit send at that exact second that it transferred. And then they were like back 1,800, 2,000 in the queue. You were lucky to even be like 500-600. And it's sad, because a lot of these, guys are returning customers who are dedicated, to put a lot of time and money and into going to this. And even the new people, that it's a shame that no one gets a real fair shake at this. It's like a super lottery. It's like, at this point, you might as well make it a draw system, like a tag. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually insane. And I know, like, it's a way bigger lift to probably try to change the technical side of things. I'm not a computer guy, so I don't really know how all that coding and stuff works, and or try to change a website. But like, with all the money that's been given to this organization and how much money people spend on this stuff, I mean, they've got to figure out a way to make this better. It's just it's taken away from the fun of it, and everybody should have a fair shake at going. And I get it should still be first come, first serve. I totally get that, because there has to be a cap, right? There's a max capacity that you can have for an event like this, and they reach it every year. But it's got to be, if you're doing your due diligence to sign up in the middle of a workday, you can't have a website crash on you and then send an random email at a time frame that wasn't even specified, and then to try to just, I don't know, it's overly frustrating, and I'd like to see it change.
Opportunity to try to go out there and and see it, right? Like we said, the Montage Mountain shoot was always really fun, and like as far as the shoot has gone, we thought it was even like better than TAC. It's just that you're not getting that same experience of what Total Archery Challenge is, and I'm pumped that we were able to not only register, we were able to get an Airbnb, and that will accommodate all of us, which is good. But yeah, like
that was the other thing. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
The Airbnb side of things, right? We kind of have a spot there for a few years. We got in a row, and it's a. I'm not going to give too much information away, but it's a sweet little spot where we're able to shoot out back and kind of toy around with our stuff before we go out. And everyone's got their own room, and it's just a nice, comfortable place, right? Nice condo. And I've had that thing like saved like in my Airbnb app for like weeks, and I should have just booked it because it's free cancellation. And I didn't because I knew that this registration process was going to be a nightmare like it always is. And I was worried that we weren't going to get it and then I was going to have to go through the cancellation process and blah, blah, blah. So I waited until you gave me the thumbs up that we got in. The second we did that, I went on my app, and within that 10-minute period, it was gone. Like someone else had already booked it, which is obvious because when people are looking up Airbnbs in that area, I mean, that's going to be one of the ones that pop up. And luckily, we're able to find a good secondary option that ended up being a few dollars cheaper. But it's just it's insane what it's actually become.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great for the archery community, I think, but I think there's a lot of people that are kind of getting disgusted with how this goes down, both from a registration standpoint to how the event is run and organized and the time frames and how long the shoots take and how long it bottlenecks in between certain shots, all the way down to like getting an Airbnb. I mean, this is everybody here works hard for the money and like wants to be able to enjoy things and but they're making it really difficult.
Well, that's like, man, that time when we went and we shot that knock-on course and we got to that cliff shot, it's like we waited an hour.
Yeah, to shoot 30 targets and have it take 5 hours is insane. There's just got to be a better way.
I think like at that point, it's like, man, if you have a 3D archery stool, you better bring it because you might be sitting. No, man, like we said, hopefully there could be something down the line that they change, but I'm excited to get back. Like once you get through that initial of like, man, that sucked, and the process is annoying, and all that type of stuff, it's like the excitement then like came back, right?
Yeah,
like then you're
I mean, it sounds like I'm shitting on it, and I guess I kind of am a little bit, but at the end of the day, we still wanted it. We still paid whatever fees they told us to.
Yep.
We still registered, and we're still going because it is that great of an event.
Yeah, the one last thing that I will say about the registration thing that took me by surprise, and this could be totally new, like they may have been doing this now last year. I don't know, just because again, we didn't try to register last year. The year prior, you did not get us in, that type of ordeal. But it was new to me this year. Was like, obviously for a 1-day shoot, which is all we're doing. We're just doing Saturday. We were like, all right, $60. Wow, they haven't changed that update. Like that's pretty cool. Like that's good. And then you go in and it's like, if you want a morning, it's a $10 fee. If you want like a later morning, it's a $5 fee, which is like, it's $10, it's $5. Like it is what it is, but I've just found that interesting. Like, just why don't you just raise it to $70 and then.
Yeah, they're trying to make people pay for it because everybody wants the early time slot. So they're like, well, people are going to pay it because they want to do it anyway. So it's just a money grab.
Yeah. And the last time we actually shot, remember we did the last. We did that last. Do we end up shooting another course that day or no?
No.
So we just shot knock on and we called it a day.
Yes. And by the time we got out there, I mean, by the time we got completed, I think we started at like noon or 11 o'clock. We didn't start that late, and we got done we were the last crew to get done because it took 5 hours.
Right.
So
that was that. Yeah. So with that though, we are excited. We got the Airbnb. We're good to go. Now we have something to look forward to. That's the last weekend of May that bleeds into June. So leading up to TAC, we'll be going over some things. And what's nice is we are pretty, I wouldn't say settled, but let's talk a little bit about arrows, man, because last year for 3D, I shot 23s. So if you're listening to this, the video aspect of the podcast, I am going to show just the arrows. And, if you're interested, tune in on that on YouTube. This will be up on there. But my 3D arrow, as far as like local ASA events, I shot the 23s of Ultra, and I ran a 120 grain tip, ran the TAC driver shorty vein. I ran a 4 fletch, and I liked the pin knocks. I know some people maybe don't like them, but I don't know. I never ran them before, and I thought they were kind of cool, so I did that. And the Ultra Arrow performed well for me. This was the limited version, which is I think the cheaper one, like the 0.03. What's that? What am I trying to say here?
The
straightness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so straightness there. And then for hunting, though, this year, I stuck with Ultra, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I ran the 0.16s, so like the Ultra skinnies. And I kept the components on the same. Like I ran their house components with the insert collar, which is a total of 53 grains. Here, as you can see, I'm running that Slick Trick Torch broadhead. But dude, I kept everything simple. I just ran I bought like the half dozen of their already pre-fletched arrows, because during that time of year, towards as we get, and the way my life was at the time, I was like, I wanted simple and easy. And coming from the previous year where I shot those Exodus arrows, they fletched them up, they did everything. So it was like, I kind of enjoyed that. I kind of enjoyed, even though I love tinkering and doing the arrows, once the baby was born last year, it was like, it turned into like, I have other shit that I need to do type of ordeal. And that's one less thing for me to worry about. And then I threw on that little Amazon lighted knock, which it's kind of funny now that Elk Shape did a video on those.
Yeah.
And it's like, been there, done that, dude. But no, that's cool. I mean, because they're great. They're a great little cheap option. So that was my hunting arrow, and this came in at 460. And I didn't talk about it, but my 3D arrow last year was like, I don't know, 400, like 405, I think, or maybe a little less, something along those lines. I totally forget. But like for 460 with my hunting arrow, and with my artist being in the performance mod, 70 pounds, 27.5-inch draw, like I couldn't be happier with how this sucker penetrated on that buck. For the type of shot that it was, I will for sure be running these for hunting season, but I'm not going to shoot those for TAC, because even though 460 is still, I would say, middle ground, like that's a great all around arrow. And I think if you want one arrow to do Total Archery Challenge, and you want one arrow to do hunting with, both same thing, I would say that 460 would be a good sweet spot. But this year, here's what we're going to do. We are going to run 204s from Ultra. So I'm going to do a little testing. You and I were talking about this. This is the half out, which I used to run on all my Eastons. But this half out is from Ultra. It's only 25 grains with 100 grain tip. I am having a wrap on this from the boutique. So Mike made these, which are pretty cool. They're like gray with topo. Then on the bottom, it has like a mountain with the skull with the arrow and knife through the top skull. That's, Kill Your Idols thing that I came up with last year. And so that will be with what do we say? I'm going to go 4 fletch on these ones with
hybrids.
4 fletch AAE hybrids, keeping the stock knock. That is going to come out after I weighed it. I know there's no veins on here, but when I put it on the scale, it came out to 421, and I was like, primo, right? But I already was like, when I was tinkering around at the end of the summer, I have a RIP TKO, which is their 204 diameter with a half out, but a 50 grain half out. These are from Podium Archer, so this is from MFJJ, with a 100 grain tip. This has a wrap on it, and this has the TAC driver shorty. What is that, like 225, I think it is. 3 fletch, and this weighs 420. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run this arrow, the TKO, but instead of doing a wrap and doing the 3 vein driver vein, we are going to run no wrap. We're going to throw 3 fletch AAE vein. And because of how all the weight is and all that type of stuff, that arrow will come out to be the exact same 421. So that just shows you how heavy those veins are. Like that, like 3 AAE hybrid vein weigh the same amount as a wrap and 3 TAC veins.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that nuts?
It is nuts.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
so they're going to be.
And there was a difference in GPI with the 2 arrows you have too, which countered one another. So now that's how you ended up with the same weight.
Yep. So they're going to be the same weight, same diameter, all that stuff. But I want to just tinker around, and I'm going to shoot the ultras at TAC, no doubt about it. But I also want to just see how they perform kind of head to head, like four fletch versus the 3 fletch, wrap, no wrap, brand of the arrow, all that type of stuff. But like, again, still both are going to have the half out, right? They're the MFJJ one's a little bit longer, but not by much. So that's going to be my setup is 421 arrow. I'm not a big proponent of how like a collar for long distance. That's just my personal opinion and view. I just don't think they fly very accurate at long distance. I'm not getting into tuning a bow and all that type of crap. I don't know. I could have my bow nice and tuned, and it just seems like a collar will have some wobble to them. That's just always been what I've noticed. But for hunting, since I'm only going to shoot 35 and in, basically, like I was even saying, if I was going out west, I probably would run something different. I would. I wouldn't run a collar. But yeah, dude, I'm excited to doctor up these arrows and get a new sight tape on the artist and start getting ready for the bombs. And then, dude, then next to me, I got 25s that I'm going to trick out for ASA this year. So I'm going to try another different target arrow, ultras 25s. Those were new towards the end of the summer. So I'm going to doctor those up. And I think with the weight that I'm going to have on that is going to be roughly like 395. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's where I'm at, man.
My 3D setup last year, I was running the Easton Sonics in the 300 spine, and those are 8.8 GPI.
Okay.
I'm a 28.5-inch draw, and I cut my arrows down like 27, maybe 27 and an eighth carbon to carbon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running a standard wrap with the 4 fletch configuration of the AE Max Stealths. And my whole setup there with a 100 grain tip and the standard insert was like right at 400 grains, 405. Because I wanted something fast, flat, especially when we were doing montage, TAC type style stuff. Fast, flat shooting, forgiving, especially when we were doing some of the tournament stuff for if I misjudge a yardage a little bit or I get a bad reading on my rangefinder due to lighting situations or whatever, I wanted to have a little bit of forgiveness, right? So the faster, flatter you can, a little more forgiving of a setup you have. So, and then with that, I was also curious to see, I wanted to be able to prove to people that a 400 grain arrow, fast, flat shooting is still going to kill a whitetail, no problem, even with a mechanical head. And I was fortunate enough to do that several times this year, specifically on a buck where I was on the ground and took a frontal shot. And you guys have heard that story on the podcast before. And I had a full pass through on that with mechanical broadhead and that same light arrow. So it can be done. And it's definitely a effective lethal setup for 3D and for hunting.
And you were only shooting 70 pounds. It's not like you were drawing 80, something
that's
crazy.
Right. Yep. And my draw length is what is considered a pretty standard average draw length, 28.5. So I'm not getting the super lightning speeds, but I'm getting a good speed with the light setup. Right? But this year, because I like to change things up and tinker a little bit, I'm going to run the Ultra 204s. And what's interesting that we found out is that it being a 204 and like the wall thickness is pretty much exactly the same as the Easton Axis, I'm going to run some of my Axis components. So I'm thinking about running the brass insert up front just to get a little bit more FOC, kicking that idea around. I'm probably going to run a 4 fletch configuration, but in a smaller vein. I don't know if I'm going to do a hybrid or if I'm going to do a comparison to my Max Stealths. I might do a hybrid, or I might do one of those hunters. I might do one of the, those little streamlined like Max Hunter veins.
Yeah, keep talking about that because I'm going to grab one. So go ahead, keep chatting about it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about making my veins a little bit smaller just because I'm going to be reaching out and I'm only shooting a field point, so I don't really need to focus on navigating a broadhead. So anything where I can knock down some windage and keep it light and it's going to be key. So with that said, I'm in the process of helping our buddy Josh build some arrows, and I set up his new Exalt 35. He's a 30-inch draw guy. He's got that bow in 75 pounds because he's a big fella, and he's going to be running the 204s. Or I'm sorry, yeah, he's going to be hunting with the 166s, but he's going to be running the 204s also for TAC 3D. And right now in front of me, he has pre-built up some 250 spines based off of his draw length, poundage, weights, and things that he wants to run. I was able to crunch some numbers, and I think I'm going to get him out of a 250 spine and get him in a 300 spine because he's right on that threshold. And as long as he switches out, the outsert system that comes with those arrows, which we came up with, weigh a total of 53 grains or 55 grains total between the insert, the threaded part, and that whole outsert system. We're able to use one of his Easton Axis standard aluminum inserts, which only weighs 16 grains, and with the 100 grain tip, so it's not going to knock it's going to keep his spine stiffness in that category where he's going to be okay. And he's going to get a much lighter overall arrow with a 300 spine in the Ultras 204s. Those are 9.1 grains in comparison to 9.6 grains in comparison to the 10.7 GPI in the 250s. So right off the rip, just in his 29-inch arrow, he's going to save about 30 grains right off the rip just in cutting his arrow in a different spine. And then again, with what he's going to save up front, about another 30 grains. So they're going to put his arrows right down in the low 400s, which at his draw length and draw weight that he's shooting is going to be laser beams. So for TAC, it's like going to be a really nice setup for him.
Yeah, well, when you look at these veins, dude, like, because didn't he want to throw those new Air Razor Pros on, like the hunt? Like, dude, look how small they are.
Yeah, yep, I said Max Hunters, but that's what I get those confused because they look similar.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the same thing. But yeah, dude, like when you look at that, like compared to just I think the ones that are already pre-fletched on like my hunting one here, those are those Raptor QTI, like they look like the boning ones, but like you could kind of see that profile. I mean, they're tiny.
When you stepped away there, I had mentioned about, because we're only steering field points. We're not steering broadheads.
Right.
So running something a little bit more streamlined is going to be good for like wind drift and keeping the back end of the arrow light and the front of the arrow a little bit more FOC for holding that trajectory at long range.
I want to see, haven't weighed those. So I'm anxious to see what those maybe weigh, because maybe I'll even tinker. Always be tinkering.
It's always fun to play with arrows, right?
Yeah, it's always fun to play with yourself or something. But yeah, so I don't know, man. I think where do you think you're gonna, like, what's your goal with your arrow setup as far as like for TAC? Like,
yeah, so
like kind of go back to about that flat shooting type stuff.
Yeah, I know I kind of spit out a lot of information there before, but I want to keep it light again, but I want to add just a little bit more weight, but keep it more in the front, because I did notice with my super light setup that I had before, my weight was more balanced overall in the arrow, which once I got out past 60 yards, my groups opened up a little bit further than I would like, and I think that's due to the fact that I'm getting a little bit of that tail spin that you get from, like, having a hard helical and not having enough weight up front to kind of steer it and hold that trajectory. So I think by adding a little bit more weight up front, and I think that's going to help me overall, because you need to find that magical balance between speed and weight in order to have an accurate projectile through like wind and things like that at long range.
Yeah, because dude, that's the beauty of archery. Like if you are able to mess around and tinker around and do all that stuff, I mean, we've spent so much money on arrows, and it's like, just because we want to just see what we could do with them, right? Like when you think about it, like how we were saying about, like, I think when we went to Maryland, when we shot at Big Truck Farms, and there was that bomb, what was that on? Like a moose or buffalo? Yeah, it was that buffalo. And we both, all of us hit it, but we weren't really where we wanted to be. Like I think I had a decent shot, but like you hit it, but you were like, let me shoot that again. And didn't you, like, really get a good shot on your second one, I think, or
Yeah,
something
once
along.
you can make when you make an adjustment, and even though I was holding right on the first shot, and I ended up hitting like 6 or 7 inches high. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like it didn't make any sense to me, and then I just held differently. I just yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with when you're shooting out over 100 yards, wind is a major factor.
Grip.
I mean, your stability and things like that, pin float, that's a big one. All those factors come into play, but that's what makes this part fun. Like we've proven now that we can kill whitetails with every single setup that we've built. So hunting wise, I'm not really worried about it. I'm completely confident with strapping on any sort of broadhead on the end and killing something with it. But now when you're coming into this long range technical shooting, super accuracy stuff, like you got to really fine tune those. And we're getting there. We're going to, like I said, we're going to try these tours. I think that's going to be the money when we swap out some of the stock components for components of other manufacturers and kind of make that beautiful combination of lightweight but good front of center and stability.
Yeah. You think we're definitely going to play our challenge game that day, right? Like our closest to center, because those are going to be all Reinhardt targets, so we're not going to have the ASA scoring, so they're all going to be that
IBO style.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's I like that. That keeps it fair. It keeps everybody in the game, I think, when you play closest to center, because everybody could be in the 10 ring. You know what I mean? And you start racking up some scores, and then all of a sudden you have a guy that just maybe has a bad shot or gets the yips or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's way out of the running when just based off of points, right? But when you're playing closest to center, it's like you could be anybody at any time. It's fun.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. I just love it. Hopefully I could shoot my ass off again and take it home. It's so funny. It was funny because I was talking to, you'll get a kick out of this. The individual that does my taxes, he's a big golfer and he's retired and all that stuff from work. He's like, so how was your summer and everything? And I said, oh, it wasn't bad. And so how about you? And, we only talked that one time. So like you're catching up from the full year. And he goes, I played golf 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Me and the crew, we go here and we were playing and he's a good golfer. Like he'll shoot in his 80s and all that stuff like that, like for score. And he was mentioning just like all the different ways they play. And I said, my buddy came up and like you and Tim, and we were just talking about how we were playing it that day and how much fun we had. And I don't know, it's just cool to hear like how guys get together and, you got into golf real bit back again, like this past summer. And I don't know, I think it's fun to do shit with your buddies. Like it's good for your health. And that's, you know what I mean? Like that's where this world is, you go through so much shit and you deal with a lot and you're providing and, there's so much that we don't know about what other people are going through. And in those moments, man, like when we know we booked Total Archery Challenge, we know it got all settled. Maybe it wasn't the first course we really wanted and all that stuff. It's like, dude, we get a chance to go down Friday, bullshit, eat, hang out, get up early, shoot all day. Then we don't have to worry about anything, get dinner, go back to our place, and then we could get up, go get breakfast and leave. You know what I mean? Like that is going to be such an awesome time. But just hearing like the fun that he was saying about that he has with his buddies, and just like, man, that's what we need more in this world, is just like, I'm pumped because like my wife is going to go down with another trip down with her girlfriends here soon. It's like, good, go down, have fun. You know what I mean? Like you get, your juice back, whatever it is, and come home and all that type of stuff. It's just, it's important that we have something. And archery as a hunter, it just, it's more than just a hobby, I think, for some of us.
It's therapy, man. It's therapeutic. Yeah. Shooting your bow every day like we do. It's just, it's like Zen, and to round out like the whole conversation, all the bitching we did about the registrations and whatever with TAC. I mean, obviously we still love that event, and it's an excuse for the buddies to get together and shoot bows and do the things that we love. And at the end of the day, we're going to pay whatever it is, and we're going to go to wherever we have to in order to get together and do that kind of stuff. And that community there's nothing like it. I mean, the archery community has exploded, specifically on those platforms, and it's awesome to meet people that maybe follow us a little bit, or people that don't, and just people from different walks of life from all over the state and all over the country, and just kind of it's a couple thousand guys that love the same things we love, and it's a hell of a weekend.
Dude, it's crazy because like when you think about it, Total Archery Challenge to me still has a little sweet spot in my heart just because that's kind of like where I got the initial push to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think about it, like, you know, Mike was a inaugural role into that of me going up. I shot Total Archery Challenge by myself. You went up by yourself, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like you met Billy and those guys that year. I met Mike and his dad, and I just shot with him. And another Mike individual was out in Delaware who I still, you know, he's not as active on social media as he once was and stuff like that. But I know he and his buddies, they go every year. Like
Mm-hmm.
still to this day, dude, they go they shoot every day. Like they're
the whole week. Yeah.
dude, like that's how awesome. Like that's what I mean. Like again, we could bitch and complain, and people have the right to about that because of how frustrating that could be. And we were fortunate enough. 2 years ago, we didn't get in. This year, we did get in. So it's like that whole thing. But yeah, dude, like that's where like Mike was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like what you want to do, like let it rip, man. And then like Dimitri and I, we did it, and you know, started it, and it's just evolved into where it is now. And you know, it's just amazing to see the relationships and the things that have come about because of TAC.
Dude, my best buds right now and my best hunting buddies I've met through Total Archery Challenge. Like you said, all the boys up north, you, even Tim through you. Josh is the only guy that, you know, I didn't meet at a Total Archery Challenge, but here we are. Look, we're coming full circle. We're bringing him in, and he'll probably meet some more people over there. You know, it's just they're constantly growing and evolving, and the archery community is the best.
I love it, man. Next week, what do you want to talk about? What piece of gear? Do we want to go releases? Do we want?
Well, since it's still TAC 3D season, we should stay on that trend. I mean, we talked about how we're going to build our arrows.
Yep.
So I guess either we could either do rests, because we are switching that up a little bit.
Yep.
We can do rests, or we can do multiple. We can do rests and releases. We kind of work our way up through the whole platform.
We'll do a double R. We'll go rests and releases, I think, next week.
I like it. Stabilizers should be on the list at some point too.
Yeah, we'll talk.
People are always
we'll talk
about that kind of stuff.
Weight.
We should fill
tell
people
that
in on that. Yeah, we'll tell that story. We say that a lot on here, and it's an inside joke, and people are probably like, "What the hell's the matter with these guys?"
Yeah, they're probably like those fucking idiots.
But we'll save that for the next one.
Yeah, we'll save that. Yeah, maybe if we have time, we'll get into stabilizers with the rest and releases. And then we'll do an episode of sights, and we'll talk about cams, and then we're gonna get into also like our mobile gear. We'll do an episode on that type of stuff. We'll break down each pieces. So yeah, man, like I said, you're gonna hear a lot of Jim, or you're gonna hear a lot of Josh and Tim and Tom, and just like I said, some of our good friends. And then certain situations might come about. We might have maybe individuals on from a certain company and talking about certain products. Again, keep them short and sweet. And that's the goal. And that's why we're going to end it right now. So, Bert, appreciate it, man. Get after it this week. We're finally feeling good, feeling healthy. There is some decent weather on the horizon. Nothing too crazy, nothing too warm, but enough to get outside, shoot your bow, go tinker, get your shit together, people. That's you know, I keep telling myself, get your shit together. So I'm going to tell other people, get your shit together.
Yeah. Spend time with your buddies, spend time with your families, have fun, shoot bows, and hunting season will come.
Don't take life too serious. Enjoy it, man. All right. Always be there for another individual. Pick them up. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week, everybody. Antler up.